Hey guys, it's Mckenley, and it's currently 4:20 a.m. So yeah, this is only half of the story, but I wanted to start off by saying why I'm posting this video. So I'm gonna start off with how we met. 7th grade I think for me. He was a grade above me, but 3 years older. And he DM'd me on Instagram telling me that he liked one of my friends. So it was whatever, I was just like helping him. And then he made up some story about how some girl at his school told him that I was gay. I was like, oh no. And that's about that. Didn't really talk to him for another 2 years. In high school, I was in show choir and we were in district chorus. I was talking to one of his friends and he asked her after we left for my number or whatever, and he asked me if I was gay and I was like, no, but whatever, we can be friends. He got really flirty and complimenty or whatever, and it made me feel really special, I guess. And eventually things happened and we just became more than friends. But it was like a really slow fade in from being friends to more than friends because I wanted to make it as clear as possible that nobody could know before he's the first guy I liked. So I was just saying that like, oh, this is new like for me, which is true. But I just was confused, you know? And when we started to get more serious, because it got serious pretty fast, he was definitely like really into me and made me feel really special, and it was all good. And there were 3 things that we like promised each other. They were 100% honesty, never let the relationship and the friendship, and for me, never tell anyone, and then the last one was never leave each other. Cute, cheesy, I know. Eventually I realized that it was unfair that I hadn't found myself at all. I realized that I was kind of a mess and I wasn't really at a place where I could be in a relationship or a serious relationship, and it was definitely getting to that point kind of emotionally. So I did end things at one point, and it didn't go well at all. He was so mad, he like, you know, was crying and I was crying and it was just like a mess, and then he blocked me on everything. It was like, I'm done with you or whatever. I was like, what? This is one of our things, we have to stay friends, like what do you, like why did you do that? But then the next day he unblocked me and apologized. Like, I'm sorry, I know I like broke one of our things, like whatever. I was like, we can try to get through this, and we did for a little while. But at some show choir competition, when we weren't together, some guy asked for my number and I was like, oh, I'm not gay, but he was like my boy's type, and I like hooked him up kind of later in the night. And then there was this girl that I was like, wow, this girl is so pretty, and I met her later and she was in my grade. I thought she was like a senior, and he helped me get her number, and it was like, oh wow, we work well as friends, like look at us, wingman, go us. They were both blonde, that's like my little hint, like that's what I'm calling them, the blondes. We both started talking to our blonde person, and I never mentioned her to him because, you know, obviously it's just not something you do with an ex that you're still trying to be friends with, but he would always like rub it in. It really got on my nerves. But eventually, a few competitions down the road, we had still not been together, we were just friends. It was gonna be my first time seeing the blonde girl again since the first competition, and I told him, don't come to this one because like if we're talking I don't want it to be awkward, like blah blah blah, just don't come. But he came anyway, and the girl told him and my friends that she wanted me to ask her out, and he got so mad and he freaked out and was like, don't ask her out, what? And he was like, she's I don't like her anymore, she's bad vibes, like don't ask her out. And the rest of the day I was like annoyed by that because I was like, I told you not to come, you wouldn't do this, like let me like live, we're not. It was drama the whole day, and basically ruined that because I was in a bad mood the whole day, and we didn't end up being able to really hang out with the girl because the whole time he was complaining and like crying to my friends, and I had to go deal with his drama. Anyways, that's kind of when I realized that he was a complete pathological liar. He would lie about random stuff like that didn't really matter, that just was like him lying for fun all the time. That gets into the fact that he was lying to me about everything about himself pretty much, about what he did, about him being in championship in MMA, about like all these stories. I can't even remember half of them, but there were so many random things, and it's kind of like his story or like his fake persona that I know he's used on other people too. And the way I found out that these are all were lies is I went to his house and met his family for the first time, and he told me before like, oh, don't mention this to them because of this, or they're mean about it, or don't mention this to them because like they're upset with me about it. Like he gave all these like BS excuses as to why I couldn't talk about certain things that he had told me around his family. But turns out I didn't even have to bring it up because his family said it to me anyways. His mom was like, oh, has he been telling you his stories about being a national MMA champion yet? Has he told you his big stories? I was like, I just didn't say anything because I was gonna be like, yeah, he did. Like, what do you mean? Is he lying? Even his mom admitted, she was like, he is like the biggest bullshit of all time. So funny, like she was teasing him about it, but it was like, I was like, oh my god, like it's probably true. He was so mad. Anyways, then we went outside and we talked it out. He needed to tell me all the lies, he told me all the lies. There's only a couple more that his parents didn't uncover for him. So finally, we like decided like this is done, like the lying has got to stop. Like it's over. And so I thought. Because I was emotionally unstable and like insecure with myself, I was petrified of the whole situation of liking a guy and being in a relationship and all that. So our relationship was very off and on throughout the whole thing. And I had ended it multiple times because I just didn't feel like I was fair to him, and I knew I wasn't ready. He wanted a lot more from me than I could give, really. And it was just a lot of stuff I wasn't ready for. One of the times, I'm pretty sure we're off at this point because this is, I think, why he's the most hates on me and posts about me, other than the fact that I don't talk to him anymore. I don't know. It would be the fact that I did start talking to another guy for a minute. I was Snapchatting him for probably 3 days. It wasn't like flirting, it was more just like a curiosity thing. Like it wasn't like, you're so cute or I like you or anything. It's more like I was experimenting. What I was trying to figure it out so desperately. And anyways, this guy decided to tell my friend who told the guy I like, and I told him the truth. And it was, I felt so bad, and I was like, sorry, I should have been honest about it. Like if I was, you know, trying to find myself with someone else, like I should have told you about it. It's not fair to you, blah blah blah. And we worked it out. Like and that night, like it was fine. I apologized. I like bawled my eyes out actually, and I did feel so guilty. But my parents had warned me when they started not thinking that he was the best friend for me, that he was very manipulative, and I was like what? No, he's like the best ever. Well, parents can be right more often than you like to admit, and here's a little example of that. Don't trust anyone whose favorite movie is 50 Shades of Grey. He told me this story, and he told me that in 8th grade he was talking to a lawyer, I don't know how, some lawyer's assistant or something, who had forced him to sign a 50 Shades of Grey contract, and that it like emotionally scarred him and it messed him up, and that he wanted to get out of it so bad, but he couldn't because he would have gotten like sued, or I don't remember what would have happened, he said. But I was like, you were in 8th grade and this guy was obviously over 18, so that doesn't really make sense. And he told me how scary it was and how he still like can't get over it, and he feels like it messed him up in the head, and I was like, that's awful or whatever. And then he told me that the only way he could get over it was if he did that to me. And I was like, that's kind of like messed up to say, like if you like what, like that's just self-explanatory is what I'm trying to say. But like I wanted to like make him happy, or like wanted him to not feel like, he said he was really scarred and had like all these flashbacks. Anyways, I was like wanted to make him happy. I wanted to help him, so I was like, I never seen the movie, but I'm open to helping. And he wanted to do this thing where basically whenever we were at a social event, party, competition, wherever we were, if we were ever at anything together, and he wanted a favor, I would not be able to say no, and I would have to go find somewhere to be in private together. And that's basically what the contract was, and I was like, that's not really fair to me. And he was like, I'll write it. Then he wrote it, and I was like, okay, what does it say? And he was like, well, I added some things and I changed some things. I'm just gonna bring it to you and you can sign it, but I'm not gonna send it to you and let you read it. I was like, just kidding. And so he got all mad at me and ripped it up. And it was just like one of those stories like that seems very manipulative, because obviously someone who's not legal and someone who is legal can't sign a contract. And his story was telling me that he was tied into a contract, and he was like, it's a real thing, I promise you. And I looked it up, I was like, it's obviously not a legally binding contract, especially between a minor and a legal adult. And he was about to try to do it again, so it was kind of just like a story he told me to try to get me to do something that he wanted me to do. I had ended it multiple times because I was like, you're deeper in this than me, and I don't want to break your heart. I can't like have that on me right now because I'm like still figuring myself out. And he was like, please, like I can't, I have to like be with you. Like if my heart gets broken, it'll be my fault. Like I know, you know, I won't be mad at you or whatever. If I don't care, then like you can't care either. Like it's my heart, I get to do what I want. And so I was like, fine. But he would also make me like promise some things, like promise me you'll never be with another guy. What am I supposed to do? Say no when we're together? Be like, no, I probably will, but kiss me, like, you know, like, what? But here's when we were on a longer break and we were doing well with it. We both were like, you know, knew that we were like allowed to see other people. And I was talking to this girl that I was interested in, and we were like, it's fine to talk to anyone else as long as we're honest about it, as long as we tell each other and update each other, because like we owe it to each other. So I was talking to this girl for a little bit, and he was talking to this guy, but of course he didn't tell me about it, because whenever I was with this girl, he'd make me feel guilty and send me paragraphs about like, what are you doing? Like tell me, like you're not answering fast. Like what are you up to then? I was like, okay, like well. And he would like guilt me for like moving on when he was like, I'm not talking to anyone, but you're talking to this girl. Like obviously I didn't mean anything to you. And I was like, well, you can talk to someone else. Like that's your choice. Well, I found out a little bit later, someone he had told me he was just friends with. I like went on messages or something, like something popped up and I saw something and I went to say something about it, and he like took his hand and swiped the table like this, and like his phone flew across the restaurant floor, and I was like, okay, damn. So that's how I found out that he was talking to someone a lot, saying all these things that he said to me before. I was like, okay, it's fine, but like I told you to be honest about it. I've been honest about it with you, and you've been making me feel guilty, so that's not really fair. But they stopped talking. I was still talking to the girl, and then he started talking to one of my friends, and I like kind of knew, so I asked him about it. He's like, no, like he's just obsessed with me. I don't like him. Well, that's not true. I found that out later as well, that they were actually talking. So another time I was being lied to just to like make me feel guilty about talking to this girl. Which I get how it was hard, like it obviously was a hard situation, but I had warned him that so many times. After I had stopped talking to this girl and he had stopped talking to his guy, I don't know, we eventually found our way back together, and this is pretty smooth part, like it was really good. Honestly now it's really hard for me to think of those because there's been so much bad sense that I've literally like no tears left to cry over this boy. Like, but one weekend my family went on some sort of trip and I had invited him over and we hung out and stuff. Then he invited two of his friends over that were also kind of my friends. We all just kind of like hung out, but it got really late and it ended up being a pretty emotional night for me, and he was there for me, and it was kind of a disaster. But it would have been really more special, I guess, if he didn't use the same story and to exploit me later on. So yeah, I ended up letting him stay the night, and then the next morning, you know, he left and everything was fine. Long story short, my parents found out, and I was about to go on my trip to LA to visit Emily for 3 weeks. Parents are parents, so when I came back, I was grounded for 2 weeks. This is my first time ever being grounded, so it was kind of really bad for me. And I also had to start going to Christian counseling, and I wasn't allowed to see him. And this is like the rock bottom part of like my life at the time. And my parents and I would fight every day, and me and him would fight every day. Like it was always just arguments and drama and emotional roller coaster. He never understood that I couldn't do anything about it, but I was an emotional mess. I was literally such a mess, and I had no one to talk to about it. I hadn't came out to anyone in my family, any of my friends, and he was the only person I had to talk about it. But every time I would go to him to talk about it, but it was also like problems with him that I wanted to talk about. So I was like, I didn't have anything or anyone to go to. And when I would go to him about it, like my parents and stuff, he would just make it about himself. He would cry to me and be like, oh, your parents are like, you know, think I'm awful and like turned you this is so upsetting because I can't see you and I just want to see you. Like I literally would have to comfort him so much for my parents being the way they are. Like I was so like dumbfounded by it. I was like, he like would not, like it was so hard to be able to just like be upset myself, and so I was completely done. Like I just had to deal with him telling me how much he was upset and how depressed he was because of it, and I was like, yeah, it's so hard, it's hard for both of us. And I comforted him, but I never got comforting from anyone on my own, and so I was just done. I ended it, and he was like, no, like, I'll do this differently, we can do this differently, like, don't worry, like, do this to get around your parents, so, like, it's not gonna work. Finally, of course, like I always did, I gave in, and I was okay, we can have 4 more days to see. Didn't work out. So I ended it finally, for once and for all, for good. I didn't have to deal with my parents as much anymore, I didn't have to deal with, like, my, like, own mental problems anymore. I was just, like, finally over it all. We were fine as friends for the time being afterward. After I had the opportunity for my sister to move to LA. After I ended things. After I'd already ended things with him. My sister asked me to come move here, and I did a little bit after that, and they let me see him one last time. They let us hang out one more time, I guess. We did, and that could be a whole story time in itself. And only a few days in, I don't even remember how it started, we got into like an argument, and he sent me this long paragraph about how it was gonna be a failure. The best job I was gonna get was McDonald's, how I changed so much as I moved to LA, and I was literally still like unpacking myself. It was the first week, and he was like, you're garbage, like you're done, like what happened to you? And then the next day he sent me a super long message apologizing, saying I'm so sorry, like I shouldn't have said that. And I was like, yeah, okay, I guess, like it's fine. Honestly, like a pretty forgiving person. Like every other time that I ended things with him, which is obviously rough, but he would always block me and always say, you know, say I'm done talking to you, like you're cut. Like we had promised each other we would never do. But I like forgave him. I was like, it's fine, you know, I get it. But then like the next day the same thing happened, and he like pulled my friends into it, where he like texted them and was like, isn't that changed? And was like, this person thinks you changed too, this person like hates you. And I was like, oh my god, like who are you not gonna tell me hates me? Like, and it was just a repeating cycle. Like he'd apologize the next day and I'd forgive him. And as time gone on, I met this guy in LA that I started talking to, and I told him about it because we were being honest with each other still or whatever, and he was not good about it at all. It was a mess, even though he was talking to someone else too. It just made us fight even more, and eventually he made this tweet that said, okay, Mr. YouTube, it's 2017, time to come out now. And I asked him to delete it, and he got so pissed at me, and he came at me with all the long messages on Twitter. He like messaged me, I asked him so nicely. I'll probably just put the screenshots out because I don't want to read it. I said I would never talk to you again, I'm done, goodbye. Like, I was like, I'm allowed to talk to someone else after you. I don't owe you anything just because you made me promise that. Like, that's such a, like, promise you can't make someone promise when you're with them. Like, you know, like, what? And I sent, like, a really long thing back, and then, like, he, like, went off. Anyways, we'll get back to it in a little bit. Hey guys, so I'm sorry that this kind of ends abruptly, and that's because I realized while editing that it's going to be too hard and too long to cram all of this footage into just 2 videos even. So I'm cutting off the end of this video and putting it in part 2, so then it's going to be a part 3 series because some crazy stuff happens in part 2 and part 3. So yeah, make sure you guys are subscribed so you don't miss part 2 and part 3. The part 2 will be out on Monday, I'm guessing. Be ready for that, make sure you watch it. It'll be a lot more juicy actually, all the blood, sweat, and tears, so be ready for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Give this video a like and subscribe. I love you all so much, and thanks for listening if you got this far.
There's an energy when you hold me, when you touch me. It's so powerful, I can feel it. When you hold me, when you touch me. It's so powerful.
It is 5:26 a.m. 5:26 a.m. I don't even look that dead.